Hello all, welcome to UPSC Made Simple channel of YouTube. As I can see, so many aspirants are requesting for explanation of 2021 prelims papers, both CSAT as well as GS, to have few new approaches to the questions they have asked in 2021 and GS as well as CSAT, right? So definitely we'll do it in maybe day after tomorrow or maybe after 2 days. So today I am coming with a very important topic. As you can see, so many questions they have asked since 2018. Important keywords like constitutionalism, state, liberty, and all, right. So whatever these notes I have made, these are from the book called Key Concepts in Politics. It is a book by Andrew Haywood. Actually, this is used mostly for PSIR, right? PSIR optional, right? But actually it is very good book. Like everyone who is preparing for UPSC should go through it initially, because it is a very good book to understand the key words, key concepts that are frequently used in different optionals, different GS subjects and all, right? And UPSC has started asking questions on that. We'll see what questions UPSC has asked till now. So it is key concepts in politics, right? And these are very old notes, like around 2017 notes these are. So it is not like reverse engineering, like now UPSC has asked questions, so I have come up with this book. These are very old notes, right? So first we'll start with the term or the keyword, that is authority. So authority is a legitimate power. Like those from public administration might be aware about it, again from anthropology. But for others it is legitimate power, that power that will come with some of the legitimacy, and again it is acknowledged duty to obey rather than any form of coercion or manipulation. There is a small difference between power and authority. So in power, what happens, it is ability to influence, and ability to influence means they can use a coercion also, they can use some manipulation, and then they can influence behavior of others. But in authority, that will be the right to influence. That means that will be legitimate power, that is called as authority, right? Again it is called as right to rule, right? Essential for the maintenance of order. So what is essentiality of authority is essential for maintenance of orders. Throughout this video you focus more on the keywords, right? Because in state question in 2021 prelims, it was only possible to reach out to correct answer by looking for keywords, right? So look at the keywords, like legitimate power is a keyword, right? Then again don't write separately, right? I will share this PDF on Telegram channel, right? So again it is power is ability to influence, and authority is a right to influence, and right to rule, it is called as authority. Next is civil society, again very important keyword. Again you will be able to use it in mains also, right? Because in syllabus paper 2, that is polity of mains, you will see these keywords, right, directly mentioned in the syllabus itself. So civil society is a realm of autonomous groups and associations, right? It is a realm of autonomous groups and associations. Civil society encompasses institutions that are private. This is very keyword. Civil society encompasses institutions that are private, in that they are independent from the government. This is again very important keyword. These are independent from the government and organized by individuals in pursuit of their own ends. There can be individual ends with which these civil society organizations are formed. So these are keywords: private, then independent from government, and in pursuit of their own ends, right? They are distinguished from state and family. So it is beyond family, and again it is separate from the state. Civil society is not a state, civil society is not a family. Again it is based on the principle of universal egoism, right? That means every individual has his own goal or his own interest, right, before those of others, right? So for this they have used this principle, universal egoism, right, in civil society. Again there is a difference between the state, family and civil society. State works on the principle of universal altruism, means it will work for others, right? And family, it is a particular altruism. It will work for a particular family member, interest family, and state will work for universal altruism. On civil society, it will work on universal egoism. It assesses balance between state authority and private bodies and associations. So it is nothing but a balancing thing, which is balancing state authority and private bodies and associations. So this is civil society. Then coming to the government, keyword government, any mechanism through which ordered rule, again is very important keyword, ordered rule is maintained. So this ordered rule is maintained, that is called as government. The formal and institutional processes which operate at the national level to maintain order and facilitate collective action. Again this is keyword, to maintain the order and facilitate collective action. So that mechanism is called as government. And central feature of the government is ability to make collective decisions and capacity to enforce them. So government, they can make some decisions and they can enforce that decisions. So these are keywords, very important keywords, make and enforce. Core functions of the government. What are the core functions of the government? Everyone knows, like to make the laws, this legislature, to implement the laws, that is executive function, and then interpret law, that is adjudication. These are three important. Again, this interpreting the law, adjudication is again important function of the government. It is not function of judiciary only, it is a function of government. Then coming to the governance, governance is simply to rule or control others, right? The various ways through which social life is coordinated, again very important keyword, social life being coordinated, that is called as governance. Then human nature is not important for prelims, ideology again not important for prelims, but they can ask about law. What do you understand by law? Law is a set of public and enforceable rules that apply throughout a political community. So law is associated with a political community. Whenever there is a political community called as state, and this was 2021 prelims question, we will see it separately. So set of public and enforceable rules that apply throughout a political community is called as law. So law can be distinguished on 4 grounds. These 4 grounds are again very important. This is made by the government. Laws are made by the government. It reflects will of the state. Will of the state means is a political community. This will of the state. So it takes precedence over all other norms and social rules, because some society will have different norm, some social rules will be different from state, religion and all, but these laws which are made by the government or political community will be given precedence over all other norms and social rules. So made by the government. Then law is compulsory. You cannot give excuse. It is backed by a system of coercion and punishment. You have investigation, you have judiciary and all. So law is compulsory. Sometimes the norms and social rules may not be compulsory, but this law is compulsory. Then it consists in published and recognized rules that have enacted through a formal process. There is a formal process, everyone knows how laws are made. So these are published and recognized rules. Then it is binding. Same is compulsory, like it is binding upon to those whom it applies. Thus embodies a moral claims, implying that legal rules should be obeyed. So it is kind of moral claim, but backed by coercion and punishment, backed by a formal process, right? So this is made by the government. Law is compulsory, it is published and recognized rules, and it is binding, and it is a bedrock of civilized existence. What differentiates jungle rule from civilized existence is a law, right? And the same question was asked in 2018 on the concept of John Locke, that is, without laws there is no liberty. And actually these words were slightly different. If there is no law, there is no liberty was the answer for 2018 prelims question. That's why I think this is the main source from where UPSC is asking these keywords, right? So John Locke's statement, without law there is no liberty, means there is no law, there is no liberty, right? The role of law is to protect each member of society from his or her fellow members, thereby preventing their rights from his or her fellow, thereby preventing their rights from being encroached upon. That means the concept of liberty is like there is a need of law to promote liberty, right? If I want to protect my liberty, from being encouraged by others, there is a need to be a formal mechanism, and that formal mechanism is provided by the law. So law indirectly promotes liberty, or it protects my liberty, or it allows me to enjoy my liberty, and there is a role of law. So if there is no law, there is no liberty. What will happen? You will get freedom, but if someone is more powerful than you, he might or she might encroach upon you. In that way, you will not be able to enjoy the liberty. So to enjoy the liberty, there is a need of law. Right? Same thing is with respect to J.S. Mill concept, that is harm principle. You might have gone through it in ethics, right? J.S. Mill harm principle. That is, the idea is that only legitimate use of law is to prevent harm to others. So role of law is to prevent harm to the others. How it will prevent? Like they have different mechanisms and all. There is a rule, there is a punishment, there are different mechanisms, right? J.S. Mill's law is harm principle. Then there is a Patrick Devlin. He says society has the right to enforce public morality through the instrument of law, and law is nothing but a public morality through the that is public morality, and society has a right to enforce this public morality, and the formal mechanism is law. Right? So these all regarding the law. Then left right, I think you know it. If you want, you can go through it. Then policy not required. Politics, they can ask question on politics. So politics, the activity through which I think one thing should be clear. In general, when we talk about our day-to-day life in layman wordings, politics is mostly about negative connotation. But here in politics, it is not like that. So remove your bias or remove your misconception about politics and read it afresh. The activity through which people make, preserve and amend the general rules, or what we call as laws, under which they live, is called as politics. It is one of the aspect of politics. Activity through which people make, preserve and amend the general rules. Then a process of conflict resolution. Politics, many people think like politics lead to conflicts, but politics is there to resolve the conflicts. So process of conflict resolution in which rival views or competing interests are reconciled with one another, and it is associated specifically with the art of government and activities of the state. So politics has to do with government and the state, and it is a public activity. Politics is a public activity. That means whatever you do in a public parlance, that becomes politics, right? Aristotle has one view on this politics. Aristotle says it is only within political community that human beings can live the good life. That means state. It is only within the political community that human beings can live a good life. To live a good life, there is a need of politics. What is the need of politics? To make, preserve and amend the general rules so that people can live a good life, right? Again, third aspect of politics is production, distribution and use of resources in the course of social existence. Again, it is one of the aspect of politics. Next, sovereignty. I think you know, you might have gone through it in many books like NCERT. It is explained in Lakshmikant. It is explained. Still will go very quickly. The principle of absolute and unlimited power. It is absolute and unlimited power. It is called as sovereignty. It has two aspects. So one is external aspect, other is internal aspect. In external aspect, it is state place in international order and is capable to act as an independent and autonomous entity, also called as national sovereignty or sovereign state. That means it is independent of any international pressure group, international country or international organization. It is independent and autonomous, right? In internal aspect of sovereignty, it is also called as parliamentary sovereignty or popular sovereignty. Why popular? Because it comes from the people, right? That is why popular sovereignty. A supreme power authority within the state located in the body that makes decisions that are binding on all citizens, groups, institutions within states' territorial boundaries. So this is again very important. Almost all knows this external aspect of sovereignty, but we must remember this second aspect, that is internal, or also called as parliamentary sovereignty or popular sovereignty, in which a supreme power authority, that is central government or executive within the state, located in the body that makes decisions that are binding on all citizens, groups, institutions within territorial boundaries. If they give this statement, and if they give this statement is associated with, and if they give different kind of keywords like civil society, maybe state, maybe authority, so it is most appropriate is sovereignty. So please remember this second aspect, internal aspect of sovereignty. Next is state, and this was asked in 2021 prelims. As UPSC answer key is not out, so there are different views with respect to answer of this question that was asked in 2021. So many people thought like first option, that was like community, right? But in second option they have used political association word. So I think it should, answer should be B, right? So what is state? State is a political association. This is again keyword, political association that establishes sovereign jurisdiction within defined territorial borders. These are very important keywords. One is political association, second is territorial borders or defined territorial borders, and exercises authority through a set of permanent institutions. It is called as state. So state exercises sovereignty. To exercise sovereignty we need state. State institutions are recognizably public. So state organizations and institutions are public and exercise in legitimation. So whenever there will be state, it will be legitimation because it is political association and instrument of domination. So we have seen these laws which are made by the state, they have precedence over all other social rules and norms. That's why it is instrument of domination, and it is a territorial association because in state you will have a particular territorial entity, and in nation it is not required to have territorial borders or maybe association, right? So state is with territorial association. Next is communism. Again, just remember this ideology as an political principle. The common or collective ownership of wealth is called as communism. Please remember, communism is very different from communalism. Many people confuse regarding communism and communalism, and they get blocked or confused in this particular. So be clear, communism is to do with common or collective ownership of wealth. Communalism is very different concept and it is mostly negative concept. In Communist Manifesto, that is in 1848, Karl Marx, the theory of communism as the abolition of private property and communal organization of social existence. So communism is a collective ownership of wealth. That means there will be no private property. That is abolition of private property, and this is related to Karl Marx theory, right? In his Communist Manifesto, he explained communism. Conservatism not required. Fascism, just have a look to this idea of an organically unified national community embodied in the belief in strength through unity. This is a keyword, strength through unity. It is, I think, enough. If you want, you can read it. Next is feminism. They can ask regarding feminism also. It's a political movement and ideology that aims to advance the social role of woman, right? It has to do with women. So whatever you do for betterment of the woman or their social advancement, it is called as feminism. So it has some basic beliefs. Women and men are treated differently because of their sex. Unequal treatment can and should be overturned. These are the two basic beliefs on which this ideology of feminism is based. So there are again two ideologies or two branches or two aspects of feminism. One is liberal feminism and other is radical. As the word itself is liberal, it will be very free, it will be very open. It is based on individualism and formed equality, quest for equal rights and opportunity in public and political life. It has nothing to do with the men or other counterpart. It is talking about individualism and formal equality. Whenever you will talk about woman, men, there should be equality, there should be individualism, is a liberal feminism. But in radical feminism, radical, even it is a revolutionary, it is restructuring of personal, domestic and family life, and it is based on the principle that personal is political. Personal is political is a principle used in radical feminism. Remember, it is kind of one step ahead from liberal feminism. in radical feminism, they will have revolutionary thoughts. They will try to restructure the personal, domestic and family life in such a way that there will be some advancement of the woman. Then comes liberalism, again very important, a commitment to the individual and to the construction of a society in which individuals can satisfy their interest or achieve fulfillment. So it is commitment of individual. Liberalism is more related to individual and to the construction of a society in which individuals can satisfy their interest or achieve fulfillment. It is based on individualism, it is based on rationalism, it is based on the freedom, it is based on the justice, and it is based on the toleration. So different components of liberalism: individualism, rationalism, freedom, justice and toleration. Human beings are first and foremost individuals endowed with reason. That means human beings can have reason, implies that each individual should enjoy maximum possible freedom consistent with a freedom for all. So this is again very important, maximum possible freedom, but it should be consistent with a freedom for all. That means if you want to enjoy your freedom, you should not hamper others' freedom, right? You can stretch your arm, but you should not it should not come close to your nose. Something, there is a proverb or some kind of quote is there, right? So this is like your freedom should be consistent with freedom for all. Again, it is a principle of meritocracy, is again important component of liberalism. So liberal society is characterized by diversity and pluralism and is organized politically around the twin value of consent and constitutionalism combines to form a structure of liberal democracy. So it is based on consent and it is based on constitutionalism. There is a rule of law, there is a limitations on the state or abuse power of the state or the executive, and it is based on the consent. So there are again two different streams of liberalism, is a classical liberalism and other is modern liberalism. In classical liberalism, it says minimal state, role of the state should be very minimum. Let there be maximum possible freedom to the individuals and it should be self-regulating market. But in modern liberalism, it says there is a requirement of some state intervention so that can therefore enlarge liberty by safeguarding individuals from social evils that blight their existence. That means there is a need to have state intervention so that people can enjoy maximum possible freedom, right? Then comes Marxism. It is of ideological system of Karl Marx and it is within socialism itself, development out of the writings of Karl Marx, and it is based upon historical materialism. And if you remember 2011 question, dialectical materialism. Dialectical materialism was a key word used in 2011 question, and that is with respect to Karl Marx. It is based on historical materialism, the belief that economic factors are the ultimate determining force in human history. So that's why he says classless society, communist society, based on communism, not communalism, based on communism, common, collective wealth, right? So it is economic factor that decides the force of human history. Next is socialism. Again is ideology, it is opposition to capitalism, everyone knows, and it attempts to provide more human and socially worthwhile alternative. Core function of socialism, a core of socialism is a vision of human beings on social creatures united by common humanity. So it goes beyond, it is a counterpart of capitalism, which is called as free market kind of thing. Here there is a role of state, and state will allow everyone, state will rule on the basis of common humanity. Then positivism not required. Postmodernism, again they can ask a pursued social shift from modernity to postmodernity. So first we should know what is modernity, then we can understand what is postmodernity. And a related culture and intellectual shift from modernism to postmodernism. Postmodern society are increasingly fragmented, pluralistic and information societies in which individuals are transformed from producers to consumers. So this modernity is associated with producers and this postmodernity is associated with consumers. And individualism replaces class, religion and ethnic loyalties. That means postmodernism is based on individualism, and this class, religion and ethnic loyalties are associated with modernism. So this class, religion and ethnic loyalties will be replaced by individualism, which is a part of postmodernism. And linked to industrialism, development of society no longer dependent upon manufacturing industry, but more reliant upon knowledge and communication. So that is nothing but, I think, industrial revolution 4.0 they are talking about. It is more about individual, it is more about knowledge, it is more about communication rather than manufacturing and what we call as a secondary sector in economy, right? Then comes rationalism. Rationalism, it is a belief that world has rational structure and that this can be disclosed through the existence of human reason and critically inquire. That means they are talking about human reason and critical inquiry. You should ask some questions. You should ask the reason. If this is the case, why this is the case? Why not like others? You should have critical ability. You should inquire about the things, and that is nothing but the rationalism. Also acknowledge flows from reason rather than experience. Thus, it contrasts with empiricism. So it is mostly about reason. It counters experience. If someone is talking, this is my experience, you should do this. So this rational thought will come. What is the reason why you are opting for this particular thing? So you should give me reason, right? So this is rationalism. It emphasizes on the capacity of human being to understand and explain. Keyword: understand and explain their world, to find solutions to problems based on reasoning, based on reasons. A principle and reason govern behavior. That means you should have some principles, you should have some reasons to govern your behavior. So your behavior will be guided by the reasons, your behavior will be guided by the principles. That is called as rationalism. Then comes autonomy. Autonomy simply is a self-rule or the self-government. It is a substantial degree of independence. So autonomy has to do with independence. Then citizenship, relationship between individual and state. State is a political community, we have seen. So relationship between individual and state, in which the two are bound together by reciprocal rights and duties. So whenever you will talk about nationals or nation, this particular person or some human being, so it has nothing to do with the duties. But whenever you talk about citizenship, you will have some rights as well as you have some duties. Rights means fundamental rights and duties means fundamental duties. You can think of our constitution. If you are talking about citizen of India, you will have some fundamental rights, and at the same time you will have some fundamental duties. But someone who is not Indian citizen, if he is in India, he can have fundamental rights, but he will not be obliged to follow fundamental duties. Simply he is not a citizenship. So whenever there will be citizenship, there will be fundamental duties. Then civil liberty. This was asked in 2019. Slightly different, but this was asked. What do you understand by the liberty? A private sphere of existence that belongs to the citizen and not to the states. It is non-interference on part of the government. It is showing civil liberty here means non-interference of the government. But in 2019 prelims, when UPSC asked questions, so answer was D. That is the freedom required for the full development of one particular individual is called as liberty. It was not absence of constraint. Absence of constraint is freedom and not liberty. So be very clear with respect to key terms. What do you understand by liberty? What do you understand by freedom? Then what is a community? Right? Again, we can relate 2021 question of state. Community, a social group. It is a social group that possesses strong collective identity. Community have a strong collective identity that may be based on a particular society. If you are residing in a particular cooperative society, you will have that community, right? So you will celebrate Holi, you will celebrate Diwali together. There will be community based on ethnic relations. There will be community based on some village association or region association, right? But in state, it is a political association. This is the main difference, and based on these two concepts, you can easily solve the question that is asked in 2021 UPSC prelims, and that was one of the difficult questions for almost all, right? So it is a strong collective identity based upon the bonds of comradeship, loyalty, duty, natural affection or mutual respect. That can be anything, right? So this is community. Then comes constitutionalism. Repeated question. 2020 it was asked, 2021 it was asked. So practice of limited government, option D in 2021, clearly mentioned, like limited government, bounded government, right, brought about through the existence of constitution. Limited government is limited by the constitution. These were the words used in 2021 prelims question. Practice of limited government, whenever government institution political processes are effectively constrained by the constitutional rules, that is constitutionalism. A set of political values, aspirations that reflect the desire to protect freedom through the establishment of internal and external checks upon the government power. That is, some limitations upon government is called as constitutionalism, and that limitation is put by constitution, right? Then human rights. What is human right? Right to which people are entitled by virtue of being human. आप इंसान हो, इस वजह से जो आपको राइट्स मिलते हैं, दैट इज ह्यूमन राइट्स. यू आर ह्यूमन बीइंग, दैट्स इनफ टू हैव ह्यूमन राइट्स. It has nothing to do with the state, it has nothing to do with the community, it has nothing to do with nation or whatever. If you are a human being, you have entitled with some of the rights that are called as individual or human rights. They are modern and secular version of a natural rights. So natural right is whenever they come naturally, right? So human rights is more advanced concept, is more modern and secular version of the natural rights. Then meritocracy is a rule based on able or talented people. You know, UPSC is a watchdog of meritocracy, you know it. And then welfare. Welfare means happiness, prosperity and well-being in general. Keywords: happiness, prosperity and well-being in general. It implies not merely physical survival but some measure of health and contentment as well. It doesn't mean like if you have house, you have clothes and all, so there is a welfare. Welfare is far beyond this physical survival. It has some health, it has some contentment as well. If some individual is feeling content with what he has, if he is feeling healthy, that means you have achieved welfare, right? Then authoritarianism. Authoritarianism, government from above in which political rule is imposed upon. This is again very important keyword, imposed upon society regardless of its consent. So we saw where is the consent. Consent is in liberalism. Liberalism is based on the consent, and when there is no consent, it is authoritarianism, and it is imposed rule without asking you. They will directly ask you to do particular thing. They will not take your consent. That is authoritarianism, imposed rule. Then pluralism is a belief in a commitment to diversity and multiplicity of existence of many things. Pluralism is can be anything. You can link to many institutions, many organizations, many castes, many thoughts, beliefs, many ideologies. That is diversity and multiplicity. Then totalitarianism. This is again very important. These are very different things. Don't misuse it alternatively, right? Authoritarianism is very different from totalitarianism. So totalitarianism is all-encompassing system of political rule that is typically established by pervasive ideological manipulation, open terror and brutality, right? It seeks total power through the politicization of every aspect of social and personal existence, implies the outright abolition of civil society, the abolition of the private. So it thinks there is nothing like private. We can enter your personal life, you can enter your family life, you can enter your social life, and we can do anything what we want is totalitarianism. And in authoritarianism we see government, there is a government, but it is from above and it is imposed rule without your consent. So consent is a liberalism. So counterpart of liberalism is authoritarianism, and totalitarianism is very kind of extreme kind of ideology or extreme kind of system where it is a pervasive, manipulative, open terror and brutality is there. So they can give a particular statement and they can give options like whether it is authoritarianism, whether it is totalitarianism. So you should be very clear about these two things. Abolition of private, there is nothing like private in totalitarianism. It is completely based on open terror, brutality. It is a total power through politicization of every aspect, personal, social, everything, right? Then gender is very simple, distinction based on social role and status, and when there is sex, it is called as biological. Then ethnicity, it is a sentiment of loyalty towards a distinctive population, cultural group or territorial area. Members are descended from common ancestors. Keyword keyword, common ancestors, and groups are thus thought as a extended kinship, again very important keyword, extended kinship groups, and form a cultural identity. Ethnicity is a cultural identity. We saw state is a political association. Ethnicity is a cultural identity, albeit one that operates at a deep and emotional level. It has to do with emotions. That's why ethnicity can be based on your caste, creed, religion, whatever, right? Then separation of power, again very important keyword, that is very important for this year's prelims also. It is a legislative, executive and adjudication, that is judiciary. We saw judiciary is a part of government, so it is a function of government also. So separate branches of the government, there is independence, there is no overlap, but there is interdependence. This is very, very important. In separation of power, you will have interdependence in the form of shared powers to ensure that there is checks and balances. So we'll see there will be some checks and balances of parliament on judiciary, as well as judicially have some checks and balances in the form of judicial review on parliament or executive, right? So there is interdependence. This is very important. There is interdependence, but there is no overlap. There is no no overlap. That means it will not be common features. Some of the functions will not be same. There is no overlap, and there is independence. They will work independently, but they will have some interdependence to have checks and balances. And it is mostly in presidential form of government, that is US government, right? Then decentralization, again very important keywords. This is expansion of local autonomy through the transfer of powers and responsibilities away from national bodies. There is a transfer of power as well as responsibility, that is called decentralization. Now we'll see what is devolution, difference between decentralization and devolution. In devolution, transfer of power from central government to subordinate regional institutions, from higher authorities to lower, but there is no responsibility. Whenever there is a power and responsibility is transferred, it is called as decentralized. That means 73rd and 74th Constitutional Amendment Act are nothing but decentralization and not devolution, right? Then comes very important keywords, that is federalism. So federalism, it requires existence of two distinct level of government, neither of which is legally or politically subordinate to other. A very important keyword is not politically subordinate. That means it is not under one or one is not under other. And notion of shared sovereignty. So they will share the sovereignty. It is not separate sovereignty. It will be shared sovereignty in federalism, and it will not be subordinate to each other. Then patriotism, again very important. If not for prelims, for mains they can ask this keyword in essay also. You should be very clear about the meaning between nationalism and patriotism. So patriotism is a sentiment, psychological attachment to one's nation, literally love of one's country, right? It is a kind of extreme kind of love, right? So this is patriotism, and we have finished almost all important keywords, right? So you can download this PDF on our Telegram channel, that is UPSC Made Simple. I will share the link in the description below, right? Those who have not gone through the videos I have uploaded for different approaches to the prelims questions, please go through it. I have very good experience with that key approaches. You will definitely score more if you understand that approaches properly, right? And I have got very good reviews on that videos also, right? So I will upload this 2021 prelims approach also. Let me give 1 or 2 days, right? So thank you very much for bearing me here, and all the very best for your exam.